Hey, Chemistry Nation. Today in this video, we're looking at the syllabi. And here we have an example of CHEM032, specifically Section A, but realize that, multiple sections that I have, and that's really only differentiated by the class time that we find there, kind of in the middle of the page there, meaning that, if you're in Section A, that is our class time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12 to 12:50. If you're in section D, that would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8:30 to 9:20 a.m. for the early risers. Then I have a third section C, which is Thursday from 4:25 to 5:40 p.m. So while this syllabus here specifically says A at the top, realize that it's the exact same syllabus as all my other sections, D and C, included. And it's just that top piece that's really going to be different. So, welcome to Gen Chem. My name is Eric Ruggles. You might have heard of Struggles with Ruggles, but given the fact that I have three sections, 600 students, believe me, I'm struggling right along with y'all. Um, my office is in Innovation 333, or we'll find that we can also meet online, in that virtual ethereal. A great way to contact me is by email, or we can also use Teams chat to make that connection as well when if we need to communicate with one another. Um, Office hours, I have two sets of office hours, in office and virtual office. So if we're in office, that is basically Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. We then have the idea of the virtual office, and that would be over Teams, and we find a lot more time there, I suppose. Tuesday, Thursday mornings into the afternoon, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in that late afternoon segment. The important piece here is that all appointments, or all these are appointment based. So it's not like we just show up and we just expect myself to be there. If it's really about saying that, hey, I'm going to be in your office, whether virtually or physically, and we are going to meet and talk chemistry, as opposed to just showing up where I do have a lot of other things going on. So if no one's at the door, I might be doing other things, which would be a waste of your time. Or maybe I already have appointments, and again, that would be a waste of your time. So, so just hitting me up with a simple Teams chat or email, we can set up an appointment and go from there. And it works pretty simply. Um, we already talked about class time, depends on your section. But the location for all of those is Innovation E102. So we're always in the same area. Textbook, most of us are already from 31, so we already have the textbook. We have everything that we need. But if you are new to it, then please take a look at this section to see what options you have as far as a textbook or ebook, etc. Assignments and lecture. So again, a lot of us might hopefully already be aware of this for 31 with me, but if you're not, again, this is a place to really like kind of explore. And this is basically getting into Blackboard. That each chapter is basically split into modules on Blackboard, and you can get to those by clicking the assignments link within the Blackboard navigational pane. And we'll find that each of these contains, a lot of things. They contain basically uh, lecture videos, homework problem sets, and also homework video examples of the problems, right? And so these are things that'll be assigned to you prior to class, and we kind of I expect you to be doing this work before class, because I really like class to be a problem solving experience, where we can talk with one another and relax and not be stuck in the normal lecture environment. Um, so that's basically how assignments and lecture sort of work together. Basically, that we have here video lectures, and those are going to be assigned, prior to class. These are videos that really go into the nitty-gritty of problem solving, the concepts behind it, and this is what you should be doing as homework, is watching those video lectures and really taking notes and treating that portion like kind of like a normal classroom. And then there's homework problem sets. And these will definitely help you to strengthen the connection between the lecture video and what's being expected of you and what we should be understanding. But you also might find that there's a lot of disconnect. So realize that what I want you to do is take notes on those videos, make attempts and have success, but you're also going to have failure. But realize that in class that we're going to be then going over very similar types of problems to help to connect the dots. Another help resource there is homework problem videos that I've done for the past. This is really just for that extra help. And I guess I should put it in a different color because it's really in a different spot. So, the video lectures and the homework problem sets we can find within that assignments link. But in terms of the homework problem video examples that I do for extra help are found within the course materials link. So keep that in mind. As we go through lecture, all things will be done online, meaning that I not only do the class in person, but I also do it live stream, and I also then record that video and apply it, to anyone that needs to use it in the future. There's always technical glitches, so don't give me any problems if there are, because sometimes there are technical glitches. So that's why definitely going to class is really the best option. Um, Class time, or is basically meant for me to kind of do a quick, like little mini lecture on concepts that we should have learned through the video lectures that were assigned for homework. And then it's really followed by, really student-led question and answers periods where I will be giving you all questions, and we're going to all work together and have fun trying to do that, to get to the answer. Um, if you've been doing the homework, meaning that you've been watching the videos and attempting some of the homework problems, you're probably going to have questions going into class, and hopefully those questions are answered by this type of problem solving method. But then again, if they aren't, then you still have the avenue to ask questions within class. Now, I say that importantly in class, meaning that even though I'm, streaming the video and recording the video of class time, um, I cannot, as an instructor, engage in the class, lecture the class, as well as then answer questions in the class and answer questions within a chat room within the class. So that's why it's very important, I think, to come to the lecture, is that to really engage and to really ask questions that you have, that's where you want to be. If you're virtual, then we would have to set up a meeting or figure out some other way to get those questions answered. The reason why I do the video is really just for, students that are sick, athletes, and of course we have the COVID issue still kind of lingering over our heads. So it just gives us a way to make sure that, even though things might, go astray, we're still in tune with the class time. And so then, a lot of class questions are answered there. But I also have a number of discussion boards on Blackboard as well to try to answer any remaining questions. But for the most part, it seems like discussion boards are on the out. And what's a little bit easier for students is just to hit me up on Teams. Like in terms of asking me a question in the Teams chat. And then I can respond to you, quickly, from there. um, Office hours we've already talked about. Right. The basic thing is that we need to um, set up individual meetings via email or Teams. Extra practice. We'll go through this a little bit in Blackboard. This is really kind of exploring Blackboard. is really the course materials link is really has a lot of information. And some of the information that's provided there is old exams from 2021 and 2019. These are great gauges to see how you are doing. But I will say that really where it's at is the homework problems. Meat and potatoes, broccoli, seitan, right? It is really doing those homework problems that are assigned from week to week and from class to class. Um, while I do present those practice exams, realize that that's not a good study tool. It's really a good way to put yourself into a real game day experience, like kind of like a scrimmage, right? It's a real gauge to see like where you're at, um, because we all know in the exam hall that when we see a question and we don't know what to do, we just draw a blank, right? So these exams are meant to try to create that experience in your dorm or the library to say, hey, okay, I'm drawing a blank, but guess what? It's not the exam. So I can put that aside and then revisit it and ask struggles and see what's going on because I have a disconnect here. So that's why those exams are posted. We also have recitations throughout the semester. These are on Mondays from 6:45 to 7:45, and they're specifically on Teams. So this is always a virtual meeting. They won't be every Monday, but there'll be quite a few Mondays where we'll do these review sessions. The Monday night session is on your schedule, and that's because of the fact of exams. Our exams are Monday from 6:40 to 9:40 p.m. So when we don't have an exam, that's when I hold these recitations. And so I don't hold it for the full time, but usually about an hour from week to week tends to work out. I also hold another one the Sunday before a mid-semester exam as an extra review session, and I do that a little bit longer. It's from 5 to 7, also on Teams. So these review sessions, these recitations aren't meant like I'm obviously coming prepared, for whatever you throw at me. But it's really about, okay, we're getting closer to exam or even working through your problems. You have questions. Here's a time that's actually worked into your schedule to get those questions addressed. So I'm utilizing that not only in the exam platform, but also utilizing it when we don't have an exam to provide some extra time for you. So keep that in mind. Throughout the semester, we'll have homework quizzes. This is the same as we did last semester. This is off of Mastering Chemistry. This is where we find those homework quizzes. And 10 is incorrect there. It's not correct in this case. I apologize for the little mistake. But basically, there will be 8 graded assignments. That's simply because we have 8 chapters to discuss this semester. So once we're done with a chapter, we will basically then post a homework quiz. Those homework quizzes are available through the Mastering Chemistry link on Blackboard, and you generally have about a week to do it. You can utilize any help that you want to. It's about learning. It's not about, like, it has that quiz standpoint. It's more about just like, okay, you taking the opportunity to work on these problems and get some points for yourself. Um, Realize that there is a point differential, meaning that if you miss one question, you lose a certain percentage of points. You miss that question again, you get a certain more percentage of points taken away. And then after you've tried 3 times, then you would get a 0. So the idea is it's to be addressed about homework, meaning that if you get the homework problem wrong the first time, well, take a step back. You can talk to peers. You can look at homework problems within the textbook, solution manual. There's so many options to talk to me. So many options to help you out with that. The idea is to just kind of spur that idea of, like, you have to practice to really gain those points. So that's homework quizzes. Exams, we already talked about that. Monday, 6:40 to 9:40 p.m. throughout the semester. And those dates are at the very bottom. So about once a month, we have February 6th, March 6th, April 17th, and then March 6th through 12th, which is just the final exam period, but we just haven't had final exams assigned yet. So somewhere in there. Um, We write the exams so that it takes about an hour and a half to finish. It's probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours, but it has ample time for everyone to get the exam done. So sorry, access students don't get time exemptions for the mid-semester exams, but for the final they do, because it's kind of a different story. And we talk about access in a little bit. Um, But one thing we need to realize is that, you know we have to have the proper tools, right? So you're not using alternative devices. You're not using a calculator that's not prescribed, right? We want the non-graphing, you know um, calculator, right? It's scientific, but it's non-programmable. It's non graphical in terms of that. And the base, you can tell from the calculators. If you have a big screen on your calculator, it's probably not going to work, right? If you just have a one-line calculator, that's the one that's going to work. And the UVM bookstore has those. Believe me, this happens. Don't try to get away with it. Just get the calculator that is prescribed. Um, we don't have, you know, 10 calculators to hand out in an exam, so that means you need to utilize the right calculator. Also, if you get caught with it and we give you a calculator, you might not know how to use it, surprisingly enough. So, here, bottom line, and also this is 32, not 31. I've already talked about this. get the right calculator. Exams are location based as before, so make sure you know where you're going. These are all based on lab. So if you're in labs 1 through 8, whether that be L or LZ, the Z is just for postbacks. They're going to a specific hall, Innovation E102. Or if you're in labs 31 to 36, you're going to Voti. So make sure you go to those locations because we have specific number of exams, printed out for each location. So please take note of where you need to go and where that actually is. Exam dates we've already talked about. Final exam policy, we need to figure that out in terms of the registrar, but they're just, probably in a couple of weeks we'll figure out when the exact final exam will be. Laboratory, I'm going to keep it brief because a lot of this is going to be reiterated during your first lab. Lab manuals are all online. That will be on the blackboard. They might not appear right away, meaning that they don't, since labs don't start the first week, it might just be a little bit of delay. So don't let that worry you. I would focus in on just making sure that we have our lab notebook, we have our safety eyewear, we understand lab attire as far as like not exposing skin, not too difficult in the winter, but maybe more difficult in the spring. Making sure that we have things that are required prior to the start of lab. But I think the biggest one is attendance at the bottom. So in class, I record videos and record class, and I understand about sickness and stuff like that. And so you've accessed all the information, but with the lab, it's more of an experiential piece. It's like we're really trying to understand or teach you, the hands-on aspect of it. And if you're not in lab, you can't experience the hands-on portion of it. So attendance at lab is crucial. So if you miss more than 2 labs, you'll actually receive an F for the course. That's not just the lab, that's the entire course. So it really behooves you to make sure you're attending class. Now we understand, we can often sometimes reschedule as well a person within the lab. So make sure that, if there is a need to reschedule, you're talking to Christine Cardillo. Now, obviously, if you're athletics or maybe someone that's religious with, some weak, these are things that can be talked to in the future, or I'm sorry, before they actually happen. So if you're in sports, usually that's the one problem. You can contact Christine Cartillo and you can figure out, how to remedy that missing of one class or another. Or if you have a religious, week or day that's on your lab day where you can again reschedule with Christine, please do that because attendance is required. We do have COVID cases, and that's something that is decreasing, but there is a possibility of that. So we do have guidelines for that if that is the case. But really, here on this page is really describing what you should be doing. Like, so one, if you're sick, stay at home, right? And follow the COVID guidelines. Get a test, make sure you're isolating yourself till you get the test back, right? And then you go from there. The second step, Let's contact Christine Cardillo. Right, she's your lab supervisor, and this is really specifically with the idea of that you're unable to attend to the actual lab. And it's nice for Christine. I just put this out because Christine asked me to. It's nice and just to organize your email with A, B, and C. And in terms of that, in terms of how the subject line goes. Please share the information, and then realize that failure to connect is not it's not on our issue. It's your issue. Um, One of the biggest pieces that I find that students forget is this is also what you should do. You got to contact the academics dean's office, right, to let you know or let them know what's going on. I mean, it could be sickness, it could be, God forbid, a death, it could be any sort of situation. But the dean's office then, once they verify that, then tells all the other teachers that are in your spectrum what's going on. Not the specifics of what's going on, but just like, okay, you should think about giving accommodations to the student. So the third step is really super important. And then you might have to rinse and repeat depending on if the sickness is something that you thought was short, but continues on to be longer, etc. Lastly, here we have lab videos, which are great to watch before each lab. Kind of gives you a perspective of what you're getting into. And then lastly is a laboratory format. Um, Here, this is really just kind of brief, where you're going to be looking at, about 3 hours of time. There's going to be a kind of like a pre-lecture, which involves kind of like a connection between the mathematics that we do in lecture to what's going on in the lab, right? As far as then also doing your lab experiment and then post lab questions. But your TA will definitely go through this to a much greater degree. Okay, course grades. Course grades are out of 1,000 points, and so we have a 750 from the class. This is mostly based on exams. Mid-semester exams are 375, final exam 275, right? And so that's basically 650 points out of the 1,000 points that is directed towards exams. And the best way to glean those points off exams is to make sure that you're doing the homework problem sets that we assign, not the quizzes, the homework problems that we assign day to day, week to week, are the meat and potatoes, broccoli, seitan. That's where it's all at. And then there's the homework quizzes. Homework quizzes are nice because if you do them, it's gonna be a nice addition to your grade at the end of the semester. But realize that these homework questions are a lot easier on the quizzes than they are in terms of what we'll see on the exam and what we'll actually see in the homework problem sets that are assigned. So if you do it right and you can handle the homework problem sets, you'll find that these homework quizzes are really, really easy. We always do this, that we have a policy that if we are looking at a student, here we have an example of example one with a student having a low exam grade of 45% throughout the semester, but the final is higher. And then this basically replaces the lowest mid-semester exam. So here we see the 45 and the 75. The 45 is the lowest, and so that's why that then changes to the 75%. So we have a swap there. Because normally every semester students don't generally have a low exam, because of, class or other outstanding situations, so if they can bump themselves up on the final, well, we don't see a reason why that can't help without, the lowest semester exam. If we look at the second example, we see that all of those are really the same, but the final exam is actually the lowest. And so as a result, there's actually no replacement. If we look at the values below, we find, those are the same. So this is only something to make, benefit for the student, in terms of saying, okay, well, you had a low ball exam, but that doesn't mean that you are shot in the foot. Like, you can still keep going, change your study habits, figure out the problems, and if that final exam comes in higher, well, then it'll replace that low mid-semester exam. So that was 750, and then the other 250 to make the 1,000 points is with the lab. So we have that split up into pre-lab and technique and post-lab calculations. Again, those are things that your lab TA will give you more information about. But, essentially it's all those points. So we add up all the points to give us the total points, and then we divide by 1,000, and that's our percent. Academic integrity, just following up on grades, basically cheating. Don't cheat, pretty simple. I've caught many cheaters, and I've applied them to, the board, which means that you actually go through a judicial board if you're caught cheating. And I've seen students, kind of put through the ringer, which I don't like. But realize that, that you're here to learn and you're here to be tested on what you can do. You don't want your doctor or your lawyer to have cheated on exams and so that they don't know what they're talking about. Like, this is important. So please understand that. Come into every exam with the idea that, okay, you're trying to do your best, but cheating is not an option. And if you get caught, that you could be brought to those types of judicial arrangements, which could result in forfeiting a grade, could result in dismissal, academic probation, etc. Simple. Don't cheat. Pretty simple. Uh, Going a little faster here. Now we have the tentative lecture. So this is how I kind of plan out the whole semester week to week. I give us what we're going to be doing during the week under the dates, the chapters that are part of that, and then the actual homework problems. Now, there's a lot of problems here, as you see, as we go down. But realize that after every class, I'll be posting an announcement pointing you to the relevant homework questions that were covered during that day, as well as a weekly announcement that helps us to keep. So I will, kind of decipher this a little bit in terms of week to week or day to day. But if you're a student that wants to work ahead, realize that, okay, here are all the problems that I eventually will assign. I don't assign them at once. I break it down again, day to day, week to week. But if you want to work ahead, you have all the information here, from exam one, to our holidays like President's Day, exam two, town meeting day, exam three, etc., etc. Final still up to date. We then have our laboratory schedule, which is kind of the same thing. Not tentative, more set in stone, but we have, from week to week, what experiment we're going to be doing and what chapter or module that relates to. So the first week, there's no lab. The second week, technically no lab, but we check in. Anyways, there's no experiment being done. And then we start to get into our experiments. So that's the lab schedule. The last piece of this deals with two pieces. One is accommodations. So if you're an Access student, you know that you are. Please give me a talk, chat, something where we need to just face-to-face. Make sure that I understand the accommodations that you need and how I can best serve you in those accommodations. Don't expect accommodations without seeing me or talking to me first, okay? So don't just assume that whatever Access is telling you about your accommodations, please make sure that you discuss them with me, so that you and I, we're both clear on what's going on. Religious holidays. Well, I'm Christian and probably enjoy Festivus. I don't know all the religious holidays, so please keep that in mind. If you are a practitioner of your particular religion, then you know the dates that are important to you, and so that means that you can easily tell me what dates then are important to you, so that if there is a conflict, we can get around it. So UVM asks us, if you're one of these students that are in practicing religion, you should know those dates, and within 2 weeks, you should be able to give me those. So don't wait until the week before exam one. Make sure that, if there is a conflict, you've looked at your schedule on that religious side, you've looked at your schedule on that academic side, and are there conflicts? And if there are, talk to your professor, talk to myself, or whatever other professor there might be a conflict with. Illness accommodations we've already talked about, going back up to Christine, right? But the biggest thing there is to make sure that you notify the dean's office. Right, that is the biggest thing. You can go to the Center of Health and Well-being, and that's great. They give you diagnosis, but they don't present you with this letter that we need as teachers saying that, okay, this is a verified illness. The dean's office verifies it. We know that we can then grant accommodations and not be unfair to other students. Lastly, COVID accommodations, which is the same as always. Make sure, like I said, if you're sick, stay home. If you're sick, the first thing you should do is get a COVID test, right? Make sure that we're following that green and gold promise. Lastly is health and safety, as well as a couple other things, but these are really just different links to maybe help us out, like in terms of where we may need to go. If we need to go to Center for Health and Well-being, there's a web link to contact them. If we need some counseling, there's CARES, which is a great facility here as well. There's a phone number. Or if we're concerned about another friend of ours or another peer, we can contact CARE to say that we have concerns, and it's all confidential and everything else. We'll just try to reach out, to help. I always throw in the alcohol and cannabis statement, meaning that the best way you can learn is without alcohol and cannabis. We are at UVM. We are a state that's actually going through that legalization process, right? So realize though that it does have an effect. It does have an effect on your judgment. It does have an effect on your learning abilities. So please do not invoke in that, especially if you are on campus. Um, Lastly, diversity, equity, inclusion. So many diverse students out here on at UVM campus, and it's so great to have all these different um, areas to get understanding or to just meet people of a different faith or color or sexual identity is really, I think, really good. So we have the division of DEI, which we can find through that link. But also we have such as the Interfaith Center, which is a great place for finding different religious aspects, tradition, etc., philosophy. The Mosaic Center for students of color. The color is kind of an interesting one, because we all have lots of color. But that means that everyone's welcome there, right? So helping through a holistic approach to that. The Prism Center for looking at different sexual orientations and sexual identifications that we have out there, and these days is a great way to meet people of a similar mind and also get an understanding of what you did not understand before. And then count, not counter, but continue with that. The Women and Gender Equity Center is another great avenue to get to a group base that's going to help you to go forward if you feel isolated. The last two are grade appeals. It's really never came up, but if you want to contest a grade, here's the rules to do that. And then lastly, FERPA rights, meaning that you're all over 18. I'm not talking to your parents. Basically, what that comes to. Occasionally, I get emails, phone calls from parents asking me about their son or daughter, or and I never reply. I never respond. I respond to the student to say that your parent has contacted me, but that is it's not between them and me. It's between you and I. So please, make sure that you come talk to me. My door is open for you at any point in time. And so just make sure you knock on the door. It's those important steps that, or at least those first steps that are so important to the game. Well, that is the syllabus. I look forward to seeing you all next week and peruse this, and we'll answer any questions that you have then. See ya.